Ahlulbayt min shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahlulbayt TV. This is a series of shows dedicated to ensuring that the youth of our time have everything necessary to succeed in today's society. I am Qasim Jafri, a student at Hilli Islamic School, and as part of our Leader of My Destiny course, we interviewed some students in a survey for Shia youth in the UK, asking what are the most pressing issues facing Shia youth these days. 60% of respondents said social media. So in today's show, we will be discussing how social media has impacted our lives and give advice on how we can use it to our benefit. This is put together by myself and my co-host, my dear friend Murtaza Ali, who is also a student at Hilli Islamic School.
Ahlulbayt min shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Qasim. So social media is a big part of our daily life, and we use it every day, every hour, every second sometimes. This is a very big opportunity, a massive platform, but we mostly use it for chatting, sending memes, or I don't know whatnot. I'll be honest, I'm also a victim of this. But today's show, we will lay out some of the challenges we face and how to overcome these challenges. We know that there are several shows, websites, events dedicated to this topic, but only a handful of them are made and played for the youth and by the youth. Therefore, we've put together some key questions that will help the youth of today. We're very excited and honoured to have with us today our special guest, Maryam Hilli, who will be answering these questions and inshallah help to face the challenges.
Thank you so much for having me.
Maryam Hilli is a TV producer, initially for Ahlulbayt TV, but now she's moved on. She had set up an offshoot children's YouTube channel, CABTV, head of marketing for Who's Hussein, and marketing lead for GB Hates, a world record-breaking campaign for the most blood donations. Also, a producer of the Shia Voice and global marketing and fundraiser at Zahra Trust. MashaAllah, quite a lot. Thank you for coming down to our madrasa today. Could you please tell us what inspired you to, mashallah, to accomplish all of this at such a young age?
I think when I was growing up, so from the age of about 19, there wasn't that many platforms available. We didn't have social media as we do today. So we were online, discussing through forums and stuff like that. And I realised there's like a need for being involved in community work, especially, like you said, the youth for the youth kind of thing. And it kind of just went from there.
Okay. So hopefully you guys also get inspired from this. And to move on to our questions.
Sure.
So social media can be used in many aspects, for good and bad. So what do you think, your personal opinion, is social media a force of good or bad?
So I wouldn't say it's good or bad. It depends on the way that you use social media yourself. So it can be good for so many ways. You can speak up for marginalized communities, empower people who don't have a voice, be a voice for them basically. You can educate yourself on there as well, spread positivity, spread lots of knowledge like health, etc. So many people use it for as a force of good. But at the same time, it can also be a place where you find cyberbullying, a lot of negativity goes on, hate speech, etc. Again, depending on how you use social media and what you take from it, it's always the responsibility of the user to use it for either good or bad.
So yeah, social media is a very mixed bag. You log on one day, you'd see a lot of positive things, a lot of reinforcement, a lot of good things that you see online. And then you log on another day and it's very different. Cyberbullying, harassment, and all sorts of these issues.
So I think it depends with how you interact with it as well, right? Because it's always based on algorithms. So the more you engage with positive posts, the more you'll kind of be exposed to positive posts as well. So it really depends on your use. So it's quite important that you're always engaging with the content that you want to engage with, so you're not exposed to content that you don't like.
So I've seen a stat that the average American checks their phone 344 times a day, which is every 4 minutes. Yeah. So leading on from this, what would be your advice to the youth when it comes to things like phone addiction?
Okay, so everything in moderation, right? Again, we're responsible for our own actions. At the end of the day, we have to be accountable for the time that we put into anything. Same goes for social media. There are loads of apps that are available for the youth. I know my daughter uses one, I think, called Forest, where it limits your time on social media. So you put the app on, it's got a kind of a timer, and then the minute you kind of navigate off of it, it stops building a tree. It's all about building trees or something like that. And there's many apps that are like that. So you could go down the route of installing an app that helps you limit your time on social media. Again, it's about making sure that you're accountable for your own actions, so accountable for your own time. Scheduling in activities that are kind of offline. We have a responsibility to do that, because I know with this day and age, all of us, even adults, me, like I'm always guilty of using my phone, and it's quite irritating to everyone around me because all my work is on my phone. But there has to be times in the day where, you know, we have to take time out, and we are fortunate enough to be able to do that when it comes to like salah and, you know, ibadah and etc. So we've got that kind of already scheduled into our day, but it's about scheduling other things outside of that, spending time with family and friends and loved ones, and, you know, doing some sports and activities and stuff like that take you away from being online.
Yeah, same. Like for example, my studies, my exams are coming up, so I put my phone on like silent, turn the internet off, so I have no distraction, and just do my work. Also, I've joined. I think recently, last week, I joined a Hilli badminton club. Nice. So for like 2 or 3 hours, I'm just outside, not touching my phone, nothing.
You know, it's really good, because when we were growing up, didn't have social media, right? We were outside playing, but
good days. So let's move on to the next question. So in USA, I saw a fact that 64% of teenagers experience hate speech on social media, and in the United States. So what would be your advice for the teenagers today that experience hate speech?
I'd say don't engage like automatically. Just don't think, okay, I've seen something, I don't like it, I'm just going to go and attack and say something. First of all, you have to make sure that you've got, you know, you're educated, you've got the education that you need to even engage in dialogue with anyone. So again, like, we have to hold ourselves responsible, make sure that we've got the knowledge before we approach anything or anyone, that, you know, we're knowledgeable enough to even engage in dialogue. There are so many platforms out there that enable you to engage in safe dialogue with, you know, people from different faith backgrounds, etc., where you can have a conversation, and the conversation is, you know, it's peaceful, it's respectful, you can learn a lot as well from there. So education, I'd say, is one. Making sure that we ourselves are walking examples of our faith. So if we, you know, see something we don't like, we shouldn't emulate that. We should try and be a bigger person. Be a better person, be a bigger person, be positive, be everything that the Islamic values, you know, tell us to be, basically. So we have to exemplify with our own actions.
Any of the bad content.
So I think be respectful when you do approach. If you have the knowledge and you want to approach and engage in dialogue, be respectful, and always make sure that at the back of your head you've got Islam at the back of your head. What are the akhlaq that we promote as Muslims, and are we, when we're engaging, are we using those values and, you know, putting them forward? So yeah, that's what I would advise. Yeah.
So speaking of Islam, in my personal experience, it hasn't always been the case, whereas I'd see hate speech directed towards me in particular. Yeah. Rather, I'd see hate speech directed to, for example, the group I'm a part of, the community I'm a part of, sure. Islam, or maybe even specifically Shia in some cases.
So with most platforms, they allow you to report any form of abuse. So it's quite important that if you feel that there is something that's quite damaging to people out there, then you have a duty to report it and to tell other people to report it as well. We've seen so many cases where people share on their stories, for example, saying, report this post, it's, you know, creating, you know, hate or whatever, etc. At the same time, I think with a lot of platforms, they censor anything that gets picked up. If it's really negative, it does get censored. But if it doesn't, again, we have a responsibility to raise that.
Yeah, like another example, like I think in 2020 lockdown, I was doing a math lesson teaching the youngers about trigonometry, and in that lesson, some people just going to start unmuting, saying stuff, interrupting my lesson. So I had to like step back, mute the chat, everything, and just go on smoothly, not react to anything.
And the thing is, you have the ability to also block people that you don't want to engage with. You know, platforms allow you to do that as well, so you can always like kind of filter out all the negativity and stuff.
So a lot of the main vessel for a lot of hate speech, especially when it's targeting certain communities and groups, is misinformation, fake news.
Yeah, that's true.
So how can we tackle the onset of fake news, especially on social media where it's so rampant, and how can we protect ourselves and especially our family members from being susceptible?
Okay, so that's a bit of a hard question. I think you can't always completely protect yourself. There's always going to be information out there that's not accurate. I guess if we educate ourselves, then we are able to distinguish between, you know, what's right and what's wrong in terms of news. And as much as we can, if we start within ourselves and if we are able to tell the difference, we can then start dispelling some of these myths. But again, it starts with us educating ourselves first.
Yeah, just to follow up on what you said, you have to first check the information, and that also corresponds with in the Holy Quran, the ayah in Surah 49, Al-Hujurat, verse 6, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Believers, if a troublemaker brings you news, check it first. In case you are wrong, you wrong others unwillingly and later regret what you've done.
Yeah, and you can always, again, engage in dialogue with anyone who is creating this sort of misinformation, but you have to be educated first and you have to have that awareness before you engage in dialogue.
So another question is that what would be your top advice to all the youth today in regards to social media?
So use it for anything, like if it brings you positivity, if you're learning from it, it goes, again, I always say it goes for anything really. Yeah. If it's doing you good, use it. If it's doing you bad, step away from it. You always have to kind of measure your own like interaction with anything at all. So even when it comes to social media, if you're feeling, some people feel like the minute they go on social media, they're feeling quite negative, they're comparing their lives to other people's lives, etc., and it's not doing them any good. So for people like that, maybe limit your use of social media. If you think, no, you go on there and you're connecting with your friends, you're learning about loads of different things, and you're engaging with contacts who have similar hobbies, interests as you, and you're getting something good from it, then by all means you can spend time on there. But again, it's creating, I think, boundaries. How much time you spend on social media, that comes to play as well. Checking with yourself. Always, like, I think when it comes to social media, we always have to be aware of like how it's impacting our mental health as well. Yeah. So if you're feeling that the using it is making you feel negative, limit your use. If you're feeling like, no, actually it's making you feel a bit more positive, increase your use. I'd say, again, like going back to what we discussed previously about trying to make sure that we have offline activities like scheduled in our life as well. That's quite important as well. That again goes within the whole thing of creating boundaries and making sure that everything is in moderation.
Yeah, creating boundaries also not only just help mental health, it's all about physical health.
That's true. Yeah.
Keeping your phone away can actually, the radiation on the phone is quite dangerous.
Yeah.
Eating while on your phone, the radiation going into your mouth, going to your stomach, get illnesses. So it's just about keeping your health better, staying away from social media.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So what I've noticed is obviously the way social media works is you'd follow certain accounts and you mainly see, for example, posts from them on your timeline. So what I did recently is that I had to look at who I was following, think, is this benefiting me? Am I receiving like positive vibes of this? So then I reevaluated who I followed, changed it around, and then all of a sudden I noticed that I was feeling much better after scrolling social media because I was listening to much more positive channels across the board.
The thing is, with social media, there's so many different platforms that are available, right? So it's about picking the right platform that's right for you. If you really like images, photos, videos, etc., and you like interacting with them, then maybe it's Instagram for you. If no, you prefer like written words, etc., then it might be Twitter. Again, if you want to engage with other businesses, people who have a professional career, etc., it'll be LinkedIn. And I know the youth downloaded, is it Be Real, this day and age, where it's like mainly the youth, right? And you're being real because it's in the moment that you're posting and stuff. And for a lot of people, that's quite candid and it's quite natural, and they prefer that kind of interaction. So again, it's about selecting, I think, the platform that works for you.
Okay. So obviously we've talked a lot about obviously consuming other people's content on social media. How about our own? How can we be more responsible for managing what we put on social media, how our interactions are and how our presence on social media is?
So I think it's really important that when we are presenting ourselves on social media, we're responsible for what we're putting out there. And I know with me, because I have a lot of followers, and sometimes I genuinely forget how many I do have. And a lot of them are quite young, so I feel really responsible for what I put out there. I have to make sure, for example, I'm not putting any filters on because I don't want to be presenting myself inaccurately, and then someone sees me in real life like, who are you? You've catfished us this whole time. So for me, it's always about making sure that I'm authentic with what I say, with how I act, with how I present myself, because it's a massive responsibility to anyone who is following me. If I'm pretending to be someone that I'm not, and then they see something else in real life, it's not even about unfollowing. It's just like that person is not genuine. Therefore, you lose trust in that person. Yeah. And again, another thing is, a lot of us, and I know I'm guilty of this, is like I take a lot of selfies, but how beneficial are selfies to other people apart from me saying, look, I think I look great today, here's a selfie. Really, I should be thinking about, okay, well, how can I use my platform for something good? So perhaps maybe share my experiences with people, or if there's something great that's happening in the community, share that. And I do tend to like always share work that's happening within the community. And that's where I see that that's something positive that I can do. So how can I use my platform to do something positive with it? And that's what we should all be asking ourselves, no matter how little amount of followers you have or how many followers you have, we all have to kind of follow that same narrative, I think, and make sure that we're responsible about what we're putting out there, especially because we're Muslims as well, right? So we have to hold ourselves accountable.
We're like the focus of everything.
Exactly.
If we present ourselves,
Exactly.
we can present everyone.
And it could just be like, for example, you might be putting a view out there or opinion about your faith or how you practice, and it could negatively impact someone.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it could positively impact someone. But we always have to weigh our words and our actions on social media.
Just think before you say anything.
Basically.
This concludes our discussion for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed this small yet very beneficial try in helping our youth face the challenge of social media. Hopefully you've taken the amazing advice that Sister Maryam has given. And obviously this is from, mashallah, a very successful young woman who's one of the best social media strategists in our community. So please do implement our advice.
Once again, a massive thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and coming down to our madrasa. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on our show. I'd just like to thank ABTV for giving us a chance and letting us try and make a difference to the community. And I'd also like to thank our madrasa, Hilli Islamic School, for giving us such amazing knowledge and wisdom that led us here. Finally, stay tuned for, inshallah, more shows, upcoming shows, where my other classmates will be discussing other pressures faced by the youth of our time, like for example studies, mental health, and how youth are distancing from Islam. And remember, this is for the youth, by the youth. The office.